Okay, we have an additional report that needs to be created for this database. And again, we're going to be using the design grid and not the report wizard. So we're going to follow the same exact steps that we followed before. We're going to create report design, and we have our grid. We have our page header, the details section, the page footer. Once again, you need to make sure that you have the entire report selected before you do any work, and that you assign the record source for the report. And we're going to use for this record source, we're going to use the book reps and customers query. And there it is. And you can close that. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you set your group and your sort. So we're going to group. We're going to add a group. It is grouped by book rep number. And then we're going to add a sort, and it's sorted by customer number. You'll see now the grid also includes a book rep number header, and we can close that. Okay, let's go ahead and save the report at this point, and we're going to call it the discount report. Okay, now this discount report actually, the instructions began on page AC 372, I think. Let me look at that for just a minute. This report is slightly different. It does 373 actually. It does have a slightly different look to it, but it works pretty much the same way. So we have we've set the group and sort, we have saved it, and now we're going to go ahead and start adding the controls. And we're going to add existing fields, and again we're going to use the book rep number up in the book rep number header section. So you can just place this about right here, and we're going to change the label, but we're not going to work with it right now. So the way this works, we're going to have all of the labels for the controls in the page header section, and so you think it'd be nice and easy to drag this label up to the page header, but you cannot drag between sections. As I told you before, you have to cut and paste. So I'm just going to select this and go to the home button and choose cut, and then click on the page header bar and choose paste. And now that's exactly where I want it to be situated, but it's not reading the way I want it to read. I want it to, in fact, I'm going to make it a little bit wider. And this needs to say rep number, and we want it to wrap on 2 lines. So I'm going to do rep, shift enter, and number. And you will see the depth of the area deepen it to accommodate the change in the wrapping. And so now I want this control to be right beneath the label. So I'm going to drag it over, and I'm going to make it match in size. I think that'll be large enough to see. You can always check your view to see if that's going to be wide enough. Let's just look at it. It is plenty wide. Alright, so now we need to add the other fields. And the other fields that are required are they list them on page 376. But basically, we're going to add the first name, last name, customer number, customer name, amount paid, and current due fields to the detail section. And then what we're going to do is cut and paste all the labels and put them where they need to go, and then set up the control. So let's do that quickly. We're going to add and it doesn't matter where you put them because we're going to move them around. First name, last name, customer number, customer name, amount paid, Current due. Okay, so now we can close the field list. We're going to move the labels first, and then we'll align the controls. And so for the book rep number header section, we want that to show the book number and then the name that's associated, the book rep number, and then the name associated with the book rep. So let's move the labels first. So you can, if you go to the Home tab again, you can choose Cut, click the bar, choose Paste, and then move it over. I use the arrow keys to do that. And I'm going to do Shift Enter to make it wrap. And I'm going to make this field a little bit wider to accommodate the the first name. And now I'm going to bring the last name label up. And you can also use Control X, which is the shortcut key for cut, and click the page header section and do Control V. And then you'll see the control pop up, and then you just slide it over. And I'm going to make it wrap. And again, I'm going to make this for the last name a little bit wider. And the next label is the customer number. Control X. Hit the bar, Control V. Slide it over. And we're going to spell this out and make it wrap. And I think that's wide enough. And then the next one is customer name. Control X. Control V. And we're going to make it wrap as well. And we're going to make it a little bit wider because we want the customer name to be a little bit wider to accommodate some of the bigger names. And now we want to add the amount paid. Control X. Control V. And the grid will expand to accommodate, because you can see we're running out of a little bit of space here. And amount paid. And let's add this one. Control X. Control V. Slide it over. And you see the grid just grows a little bit. In fact, I'm going to widen it even a little bit more. We got to add some more fields, or at least one more label. Okay, and so that's what we have. We have the labels in. Now we have to put in the controls that match them. So here's the control. Control X. Go to this section. Control V. First name. We're going to slide it over so it falls below the first name label. I'm going to look at this for just a minute to see if that's wide enough, or if we need. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide these all over a little bit. So I can select, if I click on one, and as I did with the other, if I click on the whole shift key and click on the others, I can slide them all over a little bit at one time. And that'll give us a little bit of working room. And so I'm going to make this label up here wide as the control. So that looks pretty good. Alright, so now I can slide this one back over. And I'm going to add the last name control. Control X. Hold the bar. Control V. And I'm going to make the label and you know, I use the grid lines to kind of help me line these up, but of course we can use the align and spacing options to do this. I'm going to slide the control number over. And now this is all we need in the book rep number header, because the data records are going to be sorted, are going to be grouped by book rep number. So for the book rep number header, all we need is the book rep, the number, the name, and the name for the book rep. Let's make sure these are aligned. And you know, if we click over here, we can select all the controls at one time. I go to Arrange, Align, Align by Top. And so now those are in perfect alignment. Now we need to add and I can click anywhere to deselect those. Now we need to add the controls to line up below these labels. So we're going to have the customer number here. I'm going to drag it so it is right below the customer number label. And I happen to know it doesn't need to be that wide. I'm going to make it the same size as the label. And now I'm going to slide this customer name label over some. And I'm going to drag this one up here. And I'm going to widen the control so it's the same size as the label. You can see that black bar at the top moves as I resize it. Okay. We're going to adjust that customer name again in a little bit. Let's slide this over so it's okay. Oh, we got a little bit more room. Okay, and now we're going to add the amount paid field. So it is, and we're going to make it the same size as the label. And then we're going to slide this one over and add the control and make it a little bit. Okay, so we've done those. One of the things we want to do, we want to make sure that we change the can grow property of the customer name so it wraps if it needs to. Let's just look at what it looks like now, and you'll see what I mean. So if we look at it now, you see the name is chopped off there, and as you scroll down, some of them show but some of them don't. So we're going to set that can grow property, and we'll go back to design view and choose the control. Go back to design tab, property sheet, all tab, and then let's find the can grow option. There it is, and we're choosing yes. Okay, so now we've set that so it will wrap, and let's save and take a look at it. And so now it wraps. We're going to fix this report up, so don't worry, it looks a little hinky right now. Okay, so we've done that, but let me show you something in the report view. You see the big gap between this first customer and the second customer. We need to get rid of that. We adjust that by adjusting the depth of the detail section. You see this gap between this section where the detail starts and the page footer begins. If you just grab that bar and drag it up, you can bring it all the way up, and that makes the space much smaller. Now let's look at it. You'll see what I mean. See, there's not that big gap between customers. We still got a good bit of editing to do for this report. Okay, so that's done. And the next thing we want to do is we want to add some totals and subtotals to this report. And we want to have subtotals for each book rep. And in order to do that, that means we need to add a book rep number footer. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And then we're going to add the calculations in that footer to in order to get the subtotals that we need. So first, let's add the footer. We need to turn the group sort back on. And then on the group on book rep number, there's a more button. Choose it. And you want to find the option for with a footer. The default is without a footer. We want to add a footer. So if you click that down arrow, you'll have the option to add a footer. And you see the footer pops up immediately. And then you can close the group and sort. And so now we want to create a calculated field that will sum the amount paid and the current due entries for each book rep. And we're going to use a text box just like we did for in the other report. And we're going to put it right here. And I'm going to enter the formula, and the formulas are provided on AC 380. Formulas all begin with an equal sign. And what we're going to do is we're going to sum all of the amount paid. Well, actually, I think they had you do the current due first, so we're going to do the current due first, and I'll drag it over. I'll show you how we're going to fix that. Okay, so current due. So I want to sum it. So sum, open parentheses, open bracket, current due, close bracket, close parentheses. That's it. And in fact, I had this in the wrong place, so I'm going to move it over and move it up. All right, and for the label, I'm going to name it subtotals. And I'm going to leave it right where it is right now. You'll see why in a minute. So now we need to add a, this is too wide. I'm going to make this the same width as the one above and slide it over. You see? I want these to line up. So, okay, so I'm going to make another text box now to create the formula for the amount paid. And we're going to put it right here. And I'm going to use the same formula, equal sum, open parentheses, open bracket, amount paid, close bracket, close parentheses. That's it. And now I'm going to bring it so it matches the same size as the one above. And now this second, let me move this one over first, and you'll see what I'm trying to get to. This second label we don't need because this one subtotals label will suffice for both of those. So I'm just going to highlight it and delete it. And now this is done. But while we're in here, let's click on one of these fields, one of these controls, and then shift and click on the other. We need to set the format to currency. And if you use the property sheet, go up to the top. You can set format, set it to currency, and let's set the decimal places for 2. And let's close the property sheet, save, and let's look at the report. This looks pretty good, but you see these are out of alignment a little bit. I'm going to slide them over just a tad so that the numbers line up for me. I don't like that. That's just a little OCD in me, but I'm going to, while those are highlighted, actually I'm going to take and move this one over this way a little bit. And then I'm going to select these two and slide them over too. And you can play around with it. You'll figure out. That's one thing I love about using the design feature, the report design instead of the wizard, is that you have the latitude to make the changes you need to make. And now let's look at that in design view. And that looks a lot better. Don't worry about the borders. We're going to get rid of those later. Okay, so we've got that done. Let's go back to design view. And the other thing we want to do is we want to add a grand total. We want to add a grand total to this report. And in order to do that, we need to add a report footer. We're going to put it in the report footer. So we're just going to right click any area of the report. And you see there's an option for report header footer. And now we've added a report footer and a header. You see that? So let's work with the footer first, because we want to put in the grand totals. We've already got the formulas here. We're just going to copy and paste them. If you click it over here, you can select everything at one time. You can either go home and click copy, or you can use your shortcut keys and do Control C. And then you click the report footer bar and Control V and move them over where they need to go. And you can line them up so that they are right below the others. And then the only thing is, this doesn't need to say subtotals, but it needs to be a grand total. It will show the totals for all customers by for all book reps. And you'll see in a minute. So let's do grand totals. And that's fine. And I'm going to slide this over just a little bit. Okay, so let us save and take a look at that. And so you have your subtotals, but now you have a grand total down here. And that's the way that should look. Okay, let's see. We want to remove color from the header. And then we're going to create a label. We're going to create another field. So let's go up here to the report header and go to backfill color and change it to white. So we're going to use that later, but I wanted to do it while we were in the header footer. And we're going to now set the conditional value. Conditional value usually is an if statement. And the if statement is a type of argument. And basically it says that if a certain condition exists, then do this, otherwise or else do this. And so typically these statements were called if-else statements. And so for this particular report, the if statement, the condition is if the customer has paid over $20,000, then the discount, they're due a 4% discount. Otherwise, they're due only a 2% discount. The book has provided a formula for you, but I want you to just bring to your attention, you just need to reason these out. Reason these out when you and write them on paper if you need to. So this is a discount. So if it was price, it will be slightly different. They will be paying, and so you would subtract out the discount, and you would do that by reversing the number. So let me just do it, and then I'll talk you through it again. So let's first, and we will do this in another calculated field. So we're going to use the text box to create it. And we're going to use an expression builder. And we're going to put it right here. And it's down a little bit. You know, I'm finicky about these things. And you know what? We're not going to deal with this label right now. So we're just going to get rid of it, highlight it, and delete it. We will deal with it later. Click on the control that you just entered. Don't type anything, and because we're going to use the expression builder to create it. Click the property sheet, go to control source, and then click the build button. And the expression builder opens. We're going to use a function. It's a built-in function. So we're going to double-click functions, and then we're going to double-click built-in. And it's a program flow function. So we're going to click on that category. And then we're going to double click the if statement. Now if you've had Excel, you know the if statement begins with equal if, but in Excel it's equal IIF. And so the expression is the condition. And so we said the condition was if the amount paid was greater than $20,000. So let's just type that in. Open bracket, amount paid, close bracket, greater than, use the greater than symbol, 20,000, no commas, just the 2 and the 4 zeros. All right, so that's what the database is looking for. If this is true, then award this customer a discount of 4%. So that means the amount they currently due is now going to be have a discount of 4%. So we're going to put in I think the book has you put in the percentage first, so we'll do that. And it's 0.04. That's 1%, you know, 100% is equal to 1.00. And so 4% would be then divided also by that same 100 to get the 0.04. So 4%. So what I was saying before, like if this was a price, I didn't put in the, that's right. I'm sorry. 0.04. And then we're going to put in the asterisk to multiply. And we want to multiply it times current due. And I'll tell you what I was getting ready to say. So like if we were, instead of a discount report, if we were doing like a current due report, and we still wanted to show this discount, we would be showing instead not the discount, but how much they actually owe. Or we could call it the true balance or true balance due report or something. Then instead of using 0.04, we'll use 0.96 because that will be equal to 1.00 minus 0.04, which means they will be paying 0.96. So just keep that in mind because some of your other assignments use that reverse thinking. Okay, when they are price reports, you would subtract out the percent. And in this report, since it's showing the true discount, we're going to use the percentages. All right, so if the condition of over 20,000 is correct, then you that person gets a 4% discount. Otherwise, if it's not true, then they get a 2% discount. So we're going to do 0.02, the asterisk symbol, open bracket, current due, close bracket. You see it's trying to self-populate, and you just do OK. And now we want to format it for currency and set it for 2 decimal places, just like we've been doing for the other items. And oh, I see an error I need to fix, but I'll fix it. Oh, I know why it looks like that. That's fine. So we may have to move this over, but let me look at, you know what, I'm just going to stop and look at the report before we do anything else. Let's just look at it. And all right, so the current due looks fine. The only thing it's missing is we don't have a label for it up at the top. So let's go ahead and put that in. So all of those look fine. So we're going to use this label feature right here. And it's going to go right here. And it's going to be called discount. And I did shift enter to make it wrap like the others. And I probably, let me just bring this one up so it's in line with the others. And then bring this back up. And this looks okay. But I think these need to be moved over a little bit. But let me just look at it. I always just go back and look to see what it looks like. That looks fine. The only thing wrong with these labels is they really need to be right aligned, because you always right align. We're going to right align currency, so we want to right align the money as well, the labels as well. So let's do that first. Go back to design view. Let's just choose these 3. Go to format, and we're going to right align those. And I think that will look better. I'm going to look in a minute. And then while we're in here, let's go ahead and add a label for our report header. So we go back to design, and we're going to put a label right here. And this is going to be called the discount report. Uh-oh. To have your home keys on the home keys. Okay, discount report. And while we have this let's get this control selected. Let's go ahead and set its format. The book tells you to set the font size to 20. It says to set the text align to distribute. And it says to set the font weight to semi-bold. And now I'm going to expand this system this area some. And I'm going to drag this. And maybe this way a little bit to better center it. And then now our label is in. All right, the other thing is we want to add a page number and date, just as we did to the other report. So let's do page number. We want it at the bottom of the page in the footer. We want it to be left aligned. And it just populates right in the page footer. And then we want to add the date and time. It's always going to add in the report header, but we'll just move it. And we're going to use just the date, not the time, and the third format. And now we're going to select that control and cut it, Control X, or use the cut button, and put it in the footer. And then slide it over. Okay, so the footer's in. And I think the last thing we need to do is we want to make sure we get rid of all the borders and the alternating colors. I'm going to close the property sheet. And so you can select these things one at a time by clicking on one and then hitting the shift button. But the easiest way is just to go over to this ruler and slide the arrow all the way down to capture all of the controls. And they'll all be highlighted. And open the property sheet. And we're going to set the border style to transparent. So now there's no more borders. That's all. It's all done. And the other thing we're going to do is get rid of the alternating color. So I check each one. Now the report header and the page header will not have those headers. They will just have fill colors. But I always go through them to make sure they're staying. But this one does have one. We want to change the alternate fill to none. The details section, we want to do the same thing. The footer section, we want to do the same thing. Again, the page footer, just like the page header, won't have that. It'll just have the back color. It's already set to white. The report footer will be the same way. It's already set to white. All right, so now let's save. I think the report is finished. And this is the way that report should look. And that's it. Make sure you pay close attention to your directions and look at the notes that I added at the end of the scripts for addressing some of the issues for the lab and the your turn assignments. Bye.